And now, more Utalk now.
Welcome to Utalk, everybody. This is Katie, and I am in the studio with my favorite co-host and you're our honorary co-host. We should give him a spot because he's here so much. You know.
He is now an official co-host.
Yeah.
Yes.
He
really is. He's our doctor co-host.
Yes, Dr. Josh, our new co-host. Welcome to the show, everybody.
We love being here with all of you guys, and yes, you too, Josh, Dr. Josh. And Blue, because he brings Blue.
You gotta have Blue, yeah. That's the only reason y'all are bringing me along.
He found out, guys.
That's right. It's all about the dinosaur.
Yeah, it really is. The blue dinosaur, because blue's my favorite color. So.
And it matches Katie's shirt.
It does. It really does. Yeah, no. It's just a fun thing to have. Should we all get dinosaurs? That express our own personality?
But then I'm not special.
Oh. If you were a dinosaur, what type of dinosaur would you be?
A Tyrannosaurus Rex! This big massive...
I'd be a pterodactyl, so I could fly.
Katie, what do we do?
Since we're on it. I started as a joke.
I don't know.
Brontosaurus.
I don't know.
Herbivores.
Dinosaurs are really not my thing. So you asked me what kind, and I'm like, I have no idea. Because I just know the tall ones, the little ones.
But Disney
the
princesses are your thing.
Oh, yeah.
So you wouldn't,
sure.
If there was a real Jurassic Park, you wouldn't go. You would be like, forget this.
Oh, I would go.
Oh, okay.
I would have to ask everybody what the different kind of dinosaurs were.
You want Chris Pratt to be your guide, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He could. I'd go with him.
Well, we don't have quite that topic today is not talking about dinosaurs, so if people are tuning in, they're like, the whole episode's about dinosaurs?
That could be fun.
Yeah.
We'll have to have an episode about dinosaurs. What do you think? We'll get Katie up to speed a little bit more. And you know what? We'll reach out to Chris Pratt and say, Chris, you gotta be on Utalk and just see what happens. You never know. He might come.
I know a guy who knows a guy that knows Chris Pratt.
No, actually, we've got a question that came to us via our website. So if you want to send us a question, you can do it that way, utalkradio.com. The question comes from Armando, and it's an interesting one, especially in light of what has been happening so frequently in our culture. I'm afraid there's going to be a shooting on my campus. It's hard to focus in class. How do I get over this fear?
Well, Dr. Josh, I know you've hopefully not shot up any schools, but you've this is actually a topic that's hits close to home, isn't it?
It does. I had been working when we had our San Bernardino terrorist attack shooting. It was a half mile away, actually.
Too close. Way too close.
All the media for a week camped outside of our building. That was the closest they could get. The big paramedic lines were outside our building, and that. There were threats to our building. Actually, we were on lockdown for hours, and then I ended up leading a team of folks that provided support for a good year and a half, 7 days a week to survivors and family members.
Trauma after,
so
post-trauma.
it's interesting. And actually, a short time after that, we had a school shooting in our area. There was a domestic violence one, and
that's right.
It hit news shortly, but I think you've said it before too.
Yeah.
It's happening so much, we forget about it.
Yeah. Right.
We forget.
Like the San Bernardino one, that one, there was a lot of casualties, and that was big news for a few days. But then, like you said, the next one was like, oh, we already covered that. So, it's just like another school shooting.
And it was 6 months later.
Yeah.
We had the shooting in Orlando. That was, at the time, San Bernardino was the worst terrorist attack in the United States since September 11th. Now, I don't know if the other shootings have been labeled a terrorist attack.
Right. I don't think all of them have.
But it was, this was one of the worst shootings ever.
Right.
And then 6 months later, we have one that beats it. So it is. And I can say firsthand, we just had the 3-year anniversary of it. I still get jumpy.
Really?
And such. And I wasn't even in the room necessarily.
Sure.
But if there's enough sirens, if there's, depending on where my mood is,
helicopters, whatever,
absolutely. Even going into certain kinds of rooms, I'm like, okay, where's the exit? Where is it? I have several friends who are like, I will never sit with my back to a door. Conference events, that kind of stuff, things that go through my mind in many different settings. So, the question of how do I get over it? I would almost probably encourage rephrasing it and reframing it to, how can I deal with it? How can
I
I
mean,
cope with it? I'm not sure you're going to get over it.
Because you're going to be living in fear every day if it's constantly on your mind.
I mean, it's a huge thing. 57% of high school students say they're worried about the possibility of a shooting happening at their school. 57%, that's huge.
That is huge. And you know what? Nobody likes worry. Nobody likes fear.
No.
We ask, how do I get rid of this? Why do we have worry and fear, though? I mean, really, what are they bad things? I mean, what's the purpose of fear?
Oh, I've never really thought about it. No one's ever asked me.
Yeah.
They always ask you, are you afraid? But they never ask you, what's the purpose?
That's not necessarily a bad thing.
I mean, as a human, there's a reason we have worry. There's a reason we have fear. And in many ways, it's a protective factor. Right? If I'm afraid of, I mean, you think millennia ago, a big bear coming at me.
Or a dinosaur.
Or a dinosaur.
Yes.
If blue was coming at me, you better be afraid. And what does it do? I mean, the classic thing we talk about is it creates either the fight or the flight response.
Right.
Sure.
It's a way it's survival.
It's
right?
Well, yeah,
you either are going to fight to survive or run away. So if a dinosaur is coming, fleeing's probably a better idea.
Yeah.
Right? Although you still blue will overtake you.
Try to fight
But
it.
there's a piece of, because we know it is more common, fear is not a bad thing. If fear can activate you to be cautious, to make good decisions and go, here's my safety plan.
Okay.
Don't let it overpower you to the point of I'm paralyzed and I can't do
anything
schoolwork. And this is not an easy balance, but okay, so how
Just
do
be
I
smart.
how do I prepare? Right, we're in California. We have earthquake planning.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
And fire
we can
drills,
be paralyzed from fear about an earthquake, or we prepare.
I had grandfather planning growing up.
What? What do you mean by
my
that?
grandfather was a mobster. Okay. Yeah. No. So it was funny. You mentioned the walking in a room and all that. I mean, that became a natural thing. It's like, don't ever sit with your back against a door, a window. Walk in the room and look around. And and it's interesting how that plays in. He was not paranoid. He was a big guy and tough guy, big Ernie, but that was just the way he And I think
it's survival.
It's survival. It is survival, and that's what it's about. Is how do we survive this without being paranoid? Because it's happening everywhere. I mean, there's stabbing at malls. There's
movie theaters,
a
schools,
concert.
You go to clubs.
It's very hard.
A concert. Go to
Yeah.
Vegas.
In churches.
I mean,
Exactly.
And so I think awareness, fear is not a bad thing. It's not about the removal of fear. It's the removal of the avoidance, of getting paralyzed, of not taking action. And the thing we have to remember is, in part because of media, we are more aware of these things happening.
Yes. Because they're hitting us all the time.
And I haven't looked at the stats recently. I mean, from a mass shooting standpoint, I think they are happening more frequently. They are exceedingly rare still at the same time.
Yes.
There is this balance. It's rare.
It's like being in a plane crash, in a sense.
Correct. I mean, should you be afraid of a plane crash? I'm going to be worried about you if you're not afraid of a plane crash, right? Like, you should be terrified.
And we better trust that pilot,
But that fear leads us to good regulations, to good plane safety, to creating things
I see where you're going with this.
that help protect against it. And that's why planes don't crash. And even when they do, I mean, there was the Southwest one that ran off the runway at Burbank, and you know what? Everybody was fine. Everything worked as it could. They built in protective mechanisms on the runway for that exact situation.
All right, so let's bring it down, down home, so to speak. You've got to have this safety plan. How do you operate at school? How do you go on and live your life, or even a theater? Because we've seen it there. I mean, how do we? Let's start with school and unpack it. How do we live our life and enjoy life without being a prisoner to the what if? I mean, a what if is a good thing to ask, but you don't want to
There's
live
a balance.
like
you don't want it to overwhelm you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
One of the reflections that I had in my experience with my friends and my colleagues too in this is, I think it raised awareness in all of us that there is a fragility to life. The reality is bad things do happen.
Yeah.
People die in car accidents.
Yeah.
I mean, people did in my hometown all the time.
Well, and it doesn't seem to be a reality. I've noticed this unless it happens to you or somebody close to you,
right?
Somebody on your campus.
Like you never thought it would happen.
Yeah, and all of a sudden the lights come on and you go, wow.
Right.
Life is fragile.
And so what can that do? I mean, I would encourage all of us to take that as an opportunity to reflect back and go, okay, what are my priorities in life? How can I find meaning? So Even if I die tomorrow,
Okay.
what can be meaningful today? Can I still be present and enjoy a movie? Can I be kind, even to you, Steve? But how can we have these moments of we need something light in this conversation, right? But how can we bring life and light to the world still?
How can we
on
make
a
a
day-to-day
difference?
basis? Absolutely,
even little things and making a difference. I mean, it's a big thing with us here at Utalk.
How do I live meaningfully still?
Exactly.
And also kind of that YOLO attitude, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Don't be stupid.
Right. Like not jumping
that
off
form
a
of
cliff.
YOLO,
Right,
yeah.
not that type of YOLO, but that attitude that you need to kind of live life
Take advantage.
as
be
opposed to
present.
living in
Absolutely.
fear and, like you said, being paralyzed. Like, don't let that fear define you.
Yeah.
Correct. Still continue to live life, because the reality is dangers. I mean, if you really want to take that view, dangers lurk all around. And we kind of have to put blinders on. I kind of have joked around, but it's true. If I really am aware of the chances of getting into a car accident on the freeway, I'm like,
You would
I would
never
never drive
drive.
my kids anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have there's a
Right.
little bit of I have to kind of live in a bubble and pretend
Right.
things are just going to be okay, and have a little bit of faith that it's going to work out. Do your good safety, put on your seatbelt.
Right.
Do good driving
Drive the
safety.
speed limit.
Drive your speed
Be
limit.
aware.
Go
Don't
on.
drive drunk,
Yeah.
But it's all these pieces, and when we get to violence, there's also that piece of part of the meaning, I think, of life, and a lot of our efforts on the goodbye to mean too is how do we find meaning? By caring for other people, by
Yeah.
bringing kindness in. And you know what? That also helps prevent violence. How are we aware of somebody who may be hurting and may be in pain?
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
going to say, I mean, there's a little bit if you see something, say something
Yeah.
attitude, where a lot of these cases you hear people going like, oh, they had a history of doing things, but nobody ever acted in a way to help that person not get to the point
So
where they
checking
were.
on
And yet
people too.
there's a balance too, because you don't want to be saying something when it's you've let your mind go too far,
Right.
and it's like
Conspiracy
whoa.
theories. And,
Correct. And so that's
and
where
judging people
can we
either.
turn that fear into planning and compassion
Right.
for
Okay,
people?
let's go back to what you said a moment ago. You said checking on people. Where's the balance there between being too nosy and yet being avoidance? You're avoiding that person. Give us unpack it.
Well, because a lot of the things you hear and see, it's like, well, they were isolated. Like, they didn't really have anybody to talk to. Like, this was their way of getting attention. So I think if you just kind of check in on people that are in your life, not like really nosy, but just like, hey, it's been a while. Is everything okay? Like, or I noticed like you're kind of quiet lately. Can I help you with something without really prying? But then you're checking and showing that there's someone there that cares at the same time.
With genuine interest.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You need that authenticity.
Yes.
I think there.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's part of it. Again, I think fear can motivate us into doing something. So where can we build that? We need to build bridges across each other all the time. So yeah, I really actually do care about you. Then that doesn't feel like that. Why are you looking in on me? What's going
what are
on?
you-
It's
yeah.
no, you know what? I actually care about you.
Okay, so you're looking at me saying that. So you
He
really
really
do?
cares about you, Steve.
You really care about me, Dr.
I really do, Steve. I love you.
There's nothing but
let me do
love
it.
on this show.
Oh, we got to do a group hug after this, I feel so much better knowing that you really love me.
You know what? My dad is like super paranoid. Like on the flip side, like some people might have this experience where maybe they themselves aren't the ones in fear, but they have family members or like parents that
Or
my
friends or
my
whatever.
parents, like every time a shooting happens or everything, my dad's like, don't go to the mall, don't go to the theater. He's exactly, stay at home. But then you hear about the next thing on the news is like a car crashes into the living room of somebody's house. So I stayed at home, Dad, or an airplane lands, falls out of the sky, emergency landing on somebody's roof. And I'm like, Dad, I stayed at home. But so, I mean, you also have to realize, like you
This is
said
life.
earlier,
Yeah.
life happens and you don't have control of all those circumstances. And so you can't live and in that way of trying to control everything, because sure enough, it's like one of my aunts, like she died of cancer and she was afraid to fly. So it's not the plane that killed her, but it was something
Something
else.
else.
So I mean, this is not to be a morbid discussion necessarily, but the reality is life happens.
And
So
you
is-
got to live it.
is giving up control, something giving up a little bit of the control, knowing that there's stuff that you're not going to be able to help.
I mean,
there's nothing you're going to be able to do.
I'm glad you highlighted that. That stuck out too from what Larissa was saying. And I tend to be a higher anxiety person too. And my wife was like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, but I know I have to plan out all these kinds of things because if this doesn't happen, then that's going to happen. And this bad thing will happen. And I mean, you can also do that preparation too far.
Okay.
And then you turn into me.
We don't want to. Please don't turn into him.
Hey, what are you saying now, Steve? I thought we were out of love.
Do you talk to yourself in the mirror to counsel yourself then?
No comment.
Josh, reach out to Utalk Radio. UtalkRadio.com. Text us. We're here for you. It's about you, Josh.
This is why I'm really coming. But this is why I bring
therapy for you too.
This is my therapy animal is Blue. Yeah. Did you guys ever see that video? It was a promo for one of the Jurassic Worlds where they did that. It's hilarious.
No, I didn't.
I haven't seen it.
But part of it is, when you look at kind of my planning approach, I'm trying to control for every possible situation that could happen.
And you can't.
The what ifs.
You can't.
Yeah.
There's a reasonable amount. And what's reasonable to each of us will be a little different.
So it's a little trial and error, really?
I think it is a little trial and error. And being able to, I think, approach life with open hands a bit and say, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to live life. I'm going to care for other people. I'm going to do appropriate preparation.
Make a difference.
I'm going to make a difference, and I am going to be present in the moment with other people, with myself. And you can't ask for anything more than that.
And try to live your best life. Right?
And try to live your best life. And you will make an impact on other people and on yourself.
I was speaking at a summer camp one time, and this little guy comes up. He's got a tank top on, and I think he was in 9th grade or whatever. And he had these long latex gloves on. And I'm thinking, dude, did I miss some fashion statement? I mean, what's up with this?
He is a germaphobe?
Yeah, but the whole time he's talking to me, he's rubbing his hands like this, just constantly. Well, I found out in our conversation that he's paranoid. He's got so much anxiety. He's rubbing literally layers of skin off, so he has to wear these gloves.
Oh my gosh, that's kind of a weird
terrible.
thing.
Somebody that's that young and that paranoid, and here you are. Summer camp ought to be jumping in the lake and throwing fun. And just having fun but that's the kind of thing we don't want to see happen for you.
And I think it's important to mention in this conversation, there are points at which you need additional help. I mean, that's where it's seeking therapy. I mean, potentially medications.
Okay.
I mean, there is a point at which that is necessary. And, because for some of us, anxiety can be too high. We can run too far. And you know what? It's sometimes we have this perception of just let go of control. When my wife tells me that kind of thing, I'm like, yeah, you try it. It ain't that easy. You can't just do that. So it's important to recognize that if you can't let go the fear of a shooting in your school, for instance, that's okay. You may need to have additional people around you to help figure out ways to move through that and to be able to continue to live life. Just because you can't drop it doesn't mean you're bad. Exactly.
Yeah. And we don't want drug abuse.
Correct.
We don't want, alcohol abuse. There's better ways to cope.
Absolutely.
Much better ways to cope. And again, that's what Utalk is all about. You can contact us in a variety of ways. One of the easiest ways is go to our website, utalkradio.com, and there's a bunch of ways where you can get a hold of us and say, hey, help me with this. I need some help coping. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Josh, I appreciate you so much. You and I have had lots of conversations. I think we need to write some material actually about coping skills, because it's, we are so quick to say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. And yet if that's part of your coping mechanism, then we need to help you find a better way to cope, whether it's anxiety, worried about a school shooting, or whatever it happens to be. So please reach out to us anytime. We're here for you. UtalkRadio.com, and we'll be looking forward to continuing discussions like this in the future.
Utalk Radio.